Hello, hello, hello. Super excited to be here. Love the attendees that are joining us and already joined in. Please feel free to use the chat and let us know where you're from. Give a couple more people to jump in. They're jumping in. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I am Dr. Deena Marie, and I get to be your host today. And I'm super excited to share some really cool networking tips with you because there's power in networking, there's value in networking. And so by the end of this webinar, I want you to make sure that you take away some tips that you can begin to use today. Now, one of the great things that I want to tell you about in doing the whole webinar piece is that you got to make sure which camera you're looking into. So if you see my eyes shift around when I am live on the camera, please forgive me. I'm still a work in progress. So again, I am Dr. Deena Marie, and what I do is help people communicate, connect, and learn how to collaborate, close the deal, and really build quality relationships. So those of you that got a chance to see the segment on the Morning Blend about what do you do to become a better networker, those were some great tips, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper during this webinar today. And it's very interactive. So you have a question, you have a point, please feel free to drop it in the chat, and there will be a Q&A moment at the end. I've left some time in for that so that you can ask questions and we can get some answers. And not just from me, maybe you have some great tips out there to share with the world. So I'm going to turn my screen share on, and so we can go and begin to work through. Let me hit play. And so we began to learn how to navigate the networking jungle, because it truly is a jungle out there. And you don't have to be alone. So you're going to take your savvy networking tips with you, and you're going to learn how to network like a beast and not actually be a beast. Okay, so what is strategic networking? Today, during the webinar, we're going to identify some key opportunities for strategic networking. We're going to distinguish from strategic networking and socializing, because there is a difference. Also, you'll get an opportunity to develop a game plan for increasing your visibility as a networker, your credibility as a networker, and which will result in some profitability. When we think of profits, I want you to begin to shift from just dollars and cents to the overall wealth to who you are and your being. Okay, why network? Why do you do it? This is some true and false. So you can say it out loud if you're in a room or say it to a neighbor. So let's think. Networking is a way to meet my soulmate. Is that true or false? Networking will make me popular. Is that true or false? Networking will increase my net worth. Is that true or false? Well, what if I told you that all of them are true? It just depends on what your purpose and your passion is and your focus is for networking. And you need to structure your networking events that are synonymous, that are connected to what your purpose is. So if you're looking for your soulmate, then maybe the venues and your approach, and even down to what you wear, may be a little bit different. If you're trying to just be someone who's popular and seen and connect and maybe the next reality TV star, then again, you're going to position and make a strategy to achieve that goal. We're not judging here. And if you're looking to increase your network, meaning your bank account, your dividends, and even your, what I call your philosophical network, that's also possible via networking. A great book to read, if you haven't read it yet, I definitely encourage you to consider it. It's called Never Eat Alone by Greenlight CIO Keith Ferrazzi. And he breaks down some common mistakes he's found that cause people to be a networking jerk. And you don't want that to be you. One of the first things that he talks about is that they just schmooze. People are able to see through your insincerity. And if you're just out there to flatter and as many people, you're using false praise, hoping that one of those artificial conversations is going to get you something beneficial, wrong answer. And what he also wrote is that most people haven't figured out that it's better to spend time with fewer people at a 1 hour gathering and a get together and have some really meaningful dialogue than engage in the wandering eye routine. People begin to lose respect for you. And what I call that is the hungry networker. And they're just chasing after anyone and everyone that appears to have status or title. So that's a huge mistake. Another thing, they gossip. Now, if that was you in the past, it's okay. We've all been there. We've all done it before. It will not be you in the future because you're going to realize, if that was you, that it only makes you look bad. So when you're trying to share something scandalous or you have a tidbit about someone or even a secondhand connection, thinking that it's going to make you look bigger and better amongst your peers, you're going to realize that they're going to, what my mom always says, a dog that brings a bone takes a bone. And what they're going to begin to see you as is simply a gossiper. Don't get me wrong. They're going to listen and they're going to go, and they might even spread it. But they will have little respect for you. And if your goal is to build your tribe with authentic relationships, then you just threw it out the window. So, what about that person that has nothing to offer in return? This is another huge mistake. Part of building your network is having the courage and the confidence to introduce yourself to new people, but you'll never build relationships if you're the hanger-on. What do you bring? What can you add? And it's not always about dollars and cents. It's sometimes about the people that you know and who you want to authentically connect them with. I'll give you a short story. I had a recent meeting with someone that wanted to just sit down and get to know me. And I call those networking dates that I have instead of one-to-ones because I'm there to know more about who you are. Before I open the keys to my networking kingdom and my sources, I need to know who you are. And as I sat and met with this gentleman, and he began to share who he was, and then he also said, I want to help connect you to other people. And he outlined some opportunities. I was blown away, number one, because the very first thing he did was say, I remembered when you did Disrupt HR. I remember you during an EMP event. And I really liked your energy. I liked your message. I like what you had to say about leadership. And I want to expose and share that with other people that I know. And as we sat there and talked about a host of things, I was thinking to myself, what do I have to offer This person, they're in an IT space, which is not my strong suit. They deal with recruiting, which is not my strong suit. But when I was talking with them, I kept thinking, wow, I got to find a way. This person is fantastic. So as we began to continue to dialogue, they mentioned some challenges that they were having. And because I sit on certain committees with the Irvine Chamber and I'm connected to another chamber and other groups and masterminds I belong to, I had an aha moment. So then I got a chance to say back to this person, I can't be your next IT Wonder Woman, and I don't know anyone yet in that space, but I listened to you share that you're having these concerns. Would it be beneficial if I connected you to this person and this person who I know quite intimately and who I work with who could help you out with your problem? And they were blown away. They were like, wow, that'd be perfect. I never thought of that. We've been dealing with this issue for months. So even though when I walked into the situation I met with this individual, I didn't really know how we were, going to connect and work with each other. I didn't know what I had to offer. And it wasn't dollars or cents and it wasn't a contract, but it definitely was an introduction to someone that could help fix his problems. And that's the power of networking and having something to offer. So really think outside the box when you think you don't have anything to offer in return. You just may be surprised. Another huge mistake that I've often seen is that treating people very poorly, especially if you think that you outrank them or you think that that's not a CFO or CEO or a mover and shaker. And so you may treat the help staff, the registration person, or other people in the room who you think or who you thought didn't have any value. You treat them very poorly. And Farazi says that in business, the food chain is transient. It moves. Not only do you never know where you or the people you interact will end up, but your colleagues will quickly take notice of the way you value hierarchy over relationships. So really keep that in mind. Another huge mistake is not really being transparent about your intentions. You don't have to be coy or shy or use your feminine or male wiles to get somewhere. Just be straightforward. When you enter the space, if you tell people, listen, I'm new here. I'm trying to grow my business. I'm trying to grow my connections. I really want to connect with some dynamic people. That's a very powerful way to begin dialogue and conversations of organic and authentic networking. So, what Farazi explains is that when he meets someone he's been waiting to, or he expresses from the onset his enthusiasm of wanting to connect and help them out, there's a trust that begins to build. And they know that you're dealing straight with them. And that's really powerful. People need to know that they can trust you before they will do business or even connect with you. This was the funny one in reading the book, is that they can be too efficient. And if that's you and your type A personality, you definitely want to watch out for this. And that if you think about reaching out to people is simply a numbers game, and you're sending out mass emails and letters and there's no you in it, it could actually backfire. And one of the great stories that I loved in reading it was that he explained by the time he was the CMO at Deloitte, he had a contact list of thousands of people, and he twisted his own network philosophy. He hired temp workers and they forced his signature on lots of letters. And at one point, one of his friends joked that he really appreciated that he received not one, but 3 cards, 3, each with a different signature on it. How embarrassing could that be? It just depends on how you process that. So when you look back at your life and your career of reaching out to others, you want to develop a web of friendships and relationships to fall back on, not ashes of bad encounters. You don't want to be a jerk or hungry networker. So now that you kind of have a little bit about what some of the things not to do, let's talk about the 5 keys to the networking kingdom. If you don't have something to write on or a tool to use, I definitely encourage you to make some notes, jot some things down, and also to post your questions in the chat room, and we'll begin to answer those at the latter part of the webinar. Word of mouth, that's huge. Building awareness, trust, and value. It's not knowing everybody and meeting everybody. It's having people have an opportunity to know who you are and know your name, what you stand for, and begin to trust you. It's not what you say about yourself, it's what others can say about you when you're not in the room. Your audio and your video should match, even on replay. I'll say that again. Your audio and video needs to match, even on replay. So when you're gone from the scene, you're not in the room, you're not in the event, you're out of the office, what are people saying about you? Who you are? What do you stand for? Do you have integrity? Are you trustworthy? Do they value the insight and information that you have? Because if they do, people are going to want to get connected to you. You see, networking is marketing. Marketing yourself, marketing your uniqueness, marketing what you stand for. And that's a quote by Christine Comerford Lynch. But I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. So begin to look at and know who you are. And once you become aware, you need to ensure that what you're projecting out at all times is the authentic you. We're going to do a quick activity about what do you want people to say, meaning what do you want them to say about you? I call that your slogan. And when I start to work with clients, that's one of the first things that we do. It's more than your elevator speech. It's more than just your tagline. It's really synchronizing your audio and your video so that you constantly represent the authentic you. So, what is your slogan? What I want you to do is I want you right now, in the moment, during the webinar, to identify 3 adjectives, 3, that you want people to use to describe you and introducing you to the public. So if I said, hey, let me introduce you to my friend blank, and then I spewed out 3 words, 3 adjectives to describe you, what do you want those people to use and say? Because that's how you're going to begin to start crafting more of who you are. Think about this as you're thinking about those words, and I'm going to give you a couple minutes to put that together. And then I'm going to ask you to please share them in the chat space. Go in and type in what those 3 words are. So think about this if you're stuck. What is the one thing you want people to remember about you when you're thinking about these words, okay, and how you're creating your audio and video? And then why should I remember you? Okay, so I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock because I'm feeling very generous. So 2 minutes to identify 3 adjectives that you want people to use to to describe you and introducing you to the public. And what is the one thing you want people to remember about you once you've walked away, of course? And the why. Why should I or we or them remember you? So that's quite a bit. I know you're really going to process and do a great job. So I'm going to give you 3 whole minutes, and your clock starts ticking now. Have approximately 1 minute and 40 seconds remaining. We're under the 1 minute mark. Five seconds. Okay, and those 3 minutes, and hopefully you got a great start on how your audio and video begins to build and match, and you can begin to project that out. Now, my 3 words that it took me a while to work on, and they've changed throughout the different courses and patterns and purposes that I've focused on in my life. But my current 3 is that inspire, empower, and transform. Those are my 3 words. And what I want people to remember about me is that I made them look at, think about, and grow differently in regards to who they are and what they deserve, out of life. And they should remember me because I made them smile and feel great about who they are, because I encourage them to be unapologetic. unapologetically awesome. And that leads us into mentorship. How do we get to those spaces? How do we get to that next key? Mentorship is key. How do you add value? Do you need a mentor? Can you serve as a mentor? And Zig Ziglar says, if you can have everything in your life you want, if you will just help enough other people get what they want. And that is super true. So how can you add value? There's something that you do that could help someone else. You have information. And if you begin to channel what you know to help grow other people, you will grow during the process. As an entrepreneur, you realize that your main job is to use your skills to provide the public with something that will make their lives easier. So how do you do that? How do you share that? But maybe you're in a space where you don't quite know. And so you get a mentor. You need some help. You need help. I'm looking for this one of my favorite quotes. I wasn't going to initially share this with you, but it's not really a quote. It's actually information. And it's about the sum value of who you are. And there's something, definitely found it, is that you become the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Wow. Look at your circle. Are you leveling up? Who are you spending time with? Who are you letting in your space? And for you, the people that have allowed you in their space, are you a value-added piece or are you a detractor? You need to kind of think about that as well. So those market opportunities. As a business owner or as an entrepreneur, how do you, again, begin this networking piece? And this is key number 3, is start sharing and connecting not only with people who do the same thing as you, but who don't. People who may have some insight. They might have an ingenious way of doing things that you've had trouble with. And they help you get creative. And so those opportunities are all around you in the market space. For instance, if you own a dress shop, how cool would it be to network or connect with the person that owns a bakery? You're thinking, what do we have in common? A lot. You both want customers, new business, and to sustain your old business. But also, you both deal with deliveries. You'd probably deal with customer service, point sale systems, and a host of other things as business owners. How are they somehow resolving an issue that you may have? So don't get stuck in your own niche. Look outside the box for ingenious ways to connect. And hey, you might decide to have a fashion show, cupcakes and dresses inside, the bakery or the other shop, or have business brunches where you talk about things. There's tons of stuff. So look at the opportunities in and outside of your market niche. And what Robert Kiyosaki says is the richest people in the world look for and build networks. Everyone else looks for work. So look for opportunities to connect and expand your tribe, I like to call it. Communication is key. You meet, you greet, you connect. How do you do that? And this is one of the areas that my introverts out there, you might find it's one of the hardest things to do. But when you begin to think about networking in an organic space, then that won't be so. Because connection isn't arbitrary. In business, in romance, in friendship, people connect over value. That's how networks start. And they grow in relation to the value shared. So let's say you pan for gold and you catch a couple of little flecks out there. You might connect with a local jeweler or even a hobo on the street. But that's about it. When you dig deep and come up with 1,000 bars, however, you have people coming out the woodwork to share in its value and to make it grow. So though we don't have hoards of gold to start our networks, we all have something even more valuable, information that makes life better for others. And unlike gold, information is inexhaustible. We all have advice and experience that can help someone excel in their relationships, their careers, their hobbies, or even their passions. It might not be much value at first, or so you think, but if you begin to direct all your energy into growing that value instead of looking for quick networking breaks, you'll have an unlimited supply of value with enough time and persistence and all that personal investment. You'll be so crazy and excited about sharing your value. Your networks are going to start to explode. People are going to be drawn to you. So when you're out and you're communicating, be authentic. Be who you are, which ties into what we talked about earlier. Does your audio and video match? Does it? And you'll get better at this. So when you're meeting people, what are you going to say? Who are you? Are you going to introduce the job and your title? Or are we going to see an insight into who you are? And so when you're greeting people, keep that in mind and also think about the situation because it can be situational. And your overall objective should be about connecting and establishing a relationship. If it isn't, I tell you, you're going to walk away with tons of business cards and maybe a lot of people you can email on Monday, but you're going to be relationship poor. So Bob Burke says the single greatest people skill is a highly developed and authentic interest in the other person. So it doesn't have to be about you. Think about that when you're communicating and you're walking up to someone during a networking event. Because it's about relationships. Okay, huge key in the kingdom. Whether they're personal relationships, professional relationships, or even spiritual relationships. Begin to position yourself as the center of influence. The one who knows the movers and the shakers, even if you're a little shaky on how to dance. People will respond to that, and you'll soon become what you project. I can speak that from a personal space because when I'm in a room and I'm networking, I'm not networking. I'm just looking and I'm watching people. I'm enjoying that space. I'm okay with who I am Because like I said, it's being unapologetically awesome. And what that means is that I'm clear on who I am. I'm happy with who I am. I know and understand that I am not perfect, but I love me. And I know I have value. And although there's people in that room that could grow my business, I'd love to talk to and connect with, I'm okay with me. And that projects out. And people come to me. Now, it's not an ego thing. I'm not waiting for them or inviting them. I'm sometimes in the corner just watching the room, enjoying what I see. And next thing you know, someone's kind of come over and they say, "You look like you're having a great time." And I said, "I am. I'm watching people. I'm enjoying their conversations, their wordplay." And I said, "I'm here because I'm looking for relationships. Can I invite you to the next barbecue? Will you invite me to Sarah's ballet? I'm not looking to collect tons of business cards. I just want to know people." And I first start to do that by watching and being very intentional when I go to a space. And I do a little bit of research about who's going to be in the room. But what I want you to really understand and take away is that you network all the time, no matter where you are. And that's why your audio and video needs to be fine-tuned and honed. And that's what I work a lot with my clients about in the coaching space about, do you know who you are? Because if you don't, how can someone else get to know you when you're confused? And so you create a game plan. Now, here's some of the nitty gritty, what many of you probably signed on here for is that visibility, is a calendar. And what I'll do is I'll share with you that have been on after the fact what a calendar looks like. If you don't mind, I'll send out, here's a sample networking planning calendar. You do need to get a hold of your time. You cannot go to every single event, be in every single space, because how are you growing your business and how are you growing you? So visibility is important, and that's where you're going to do your research. Think about, on average, 2 to 3 strategic networking venues that you can place yourself at. And these are specifically designed to grow whatever space you're interested in growing. So if you want to grow your business, these would be events that's going to help you grow your business and put you in a connected space with those people that can grow your business. If it's about developing mentorships or, volunteering and growing yourself, again, 3 very specific events that you can put in your calendar that's going to deal with that purpose. Because see, your credibility is going to come where people begin to see you and know you, which is one of my favorite places to network is chamber, the local chamber. There's opportunities for you to add value and to get involved, and people begin to see what you do, learn more about your business. You can help out by serving on committees and sharing that golden advice and information, and your credibility is on the rise. You want to find spaces and places where you can show up repeatedly so people get to know you. And they don't see you as a serial networker, that you're just running all over the place, throwing business cards out at people. And that's how your credibility builds, because it's what people say about you, not what you say about yourself necessarily. We all had that mom who was at the game and my baby is the best one on the field and they can make the baskets, and you've been riding the bench the whole time. So it's not what we say. We need to know who we are, but what can others say about the value that you offer? And that builds your credibility. And that ties back into your visibility. Have you identified some key networks that you can tap into, that you are repeatedly visible, you repeatedly add value, and what you do offer is of value and helps others, whether it's as a mentor, as a volunteer, or just again as a sounding board, as a worker bee, because all organizations need those too. That begins to lead to your profitability in the dollars and cents space as well. Because when people say, gosh, I saw Jimmy, he was at event X. It was really great. I loved talking to him. He poured so much insight. And guess what? His, mentor or sponsor or the person that also knows him said he has the best widgets out there. And what's going to happen? People are going to be clamoring to buy your widgets or get to even know you. So really think about your game plan, and your game plan shouldn't be going to everything, everywhere, all the time. And don't forget to realize that part of building relationships is maintaining relationships with your family. And that's going to speak a lot to who you are as well, especially with others that value family. If you are always running off, missing your child's game, missing that family dinner because you're chasing the dollar, what do you think people are going to think about you, especially when they hold family values dear? So really kind of consider that. That's like a bonus tip. So what's the strategy that you're going to come up with? Begin to plan and write it down, the who. And again, this can change. This can shift depending on what your purpose is. Where do you want to grow right now? And that's the strategy you're going to build around that. So it's the who. Are you trying to join a local auxiliary group? So where do you need to be? Okay. When do you need to be there? And how are you going to get connected in, especially if you don't know someone who's already in? You begin to develop a strategy, and that's when your bigger network comes into play. You never know who someone knows and how they can help you. So you want to develop and be very strategic about who you want to connect to, even if you did get in, and when you do get in. We're going to deal in the when. And then when you are at the where, how does this fit in your overall game plan? Okay. And then when are you going to follow up, with them? Are you going to go have a coffee? Or are you going to have morning appointments? Do you want to follow up in the evening? And then also like the how. How are you going to position yourself? Are you going to make a phone call? Are you going to communicate with a millennial? So you're tweeting with them or you're sending them a text message? Have a strategy for success. If you do these things with thinking about being organic and strategic, you will have increased business. You will build relevant relationship. You will have a renewed sense of purpose. And so networking won't be stressful. It wouldn't be something that you don't like to do. It would be something that you honestly enjoy. I love networking. I love it. I love being able to connect with people and have conversations with them that add value. I love having conversations with people where I'm learning something. And the other piece that I love having is connecting with people that want to connect with me because they see that there's something that I have is valuable for them. And I find an opportunity to connect and give back. And it's about building relationships with people. And that's why I truly encourage you as a strategic networker and developing this networking space is that you look from a place and a position to add value, not only to others, but to yourself. And if you begin to mind shift and realize that the money and the business will come as your relationships build, then you are 3/4 ahead of the game. Now, again, I invite you, if you have questions or any ideas or tidbits that you love to share, is to go ahead and type and jot those down and throw those in the chat room. We would love to have a Q&A space so that we can learn more about what you need in this networking space. Is there anybody? I'll go back, turn off my screen sharing, turn my webcam back on so that I can see you, or you can see me actually. Okay. Well, if you do, if there's some question you think of or you want some very specific tips, please reach out and connect with me on Facebook. Sorry. You can go to at Renaissance Leader Solutions, and that's my Facebook fan page, business page. On Instagram at DC Brown PhD, or on Twitter at DC Brown PhD. And, jot a question, and you can always send me an email. I don't know what's really going on today. It's Thursday at info@dbcoachingandconsulting.com. I'd love to hear from you. The next webinar that I'd like to do is purely on networking for the introvert. So it won't have the wide space. It will just be very specific tips to give for introverts on how to overcome that fear of networking and start to put themselves out there. So I thank you for joining me today. And if there's any questions, please let me know.